All right, let's jump right into a huge question facing small businesses everywhere. In a world of, constantly changing digital threats, could AI really be the answer? Could it be the key to defending the very backbone of our economy?
It's kind of strange when you think about it. You'd assume cybercriminals would only bother with the huge corporations, right? The big fish. But the truth is, small and medium businesses, SMEs as they're called, they're actually prime targets, and it's because they're often the most vulnerable. So let's dig into why that is.
So SMEs are basically caught in what you could call a security trap. They have plenty of valuable data that criminals want, but they just don't have the kind of fortress-like defenses you see at a big company. That leaves them uniquely exposed. Let's break down what this trap really looks like.
And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got large corporations with whole departments dedicated to security, massive budgets, and super advanced systems. And on the other side, well, you've got SMEs. They're often working with a tiny IT team, if they even have one, and a shoestring budget that has to cover everything else too. And that huge gap in resources, that's exactly where attackers sneak in.
And it's not just about the money or the number of staff. The hurdles they face are really complex. I mean, the threats are changing literally every day. How do you keep up with that? And without a clear game plan, it's almost impossible to figure out what to protect first. It's just a constant uphill battle, even when you're trying your best.
So, how does a business traditionally check its own defenses? Well, the standard way is something called a risk assessment. But as we're about to see, the old way of doing things, it just doesn't work for Main Street.
Okay, so an information security risk assessment, or ISRA, think of it like a really deep, thorough security checkup for a company. The whole point is to systematically go through everything and find all the little weak spots in your systems and policies before an attacker does. It's a super critical tool for protecting a company's most valuable stuff.
But here's the kicker. The very tool designed to keep these businesses safe is usually completely out of their reach. A manual ISRA requires hiring expensive consultants, it takes a ton of time, and it costs a fortune. For a small business, that's just not going to happen. It pretty much leaves them flying blind.
And this is where things get really interesting. A group of researchers looked at this problem and asked a pretty simple question. What if we could automate this whole process? What if we could train an AI to be a kind of digital security auditor that's fast, affordable, and accurate?
And this was their mission. The goal wasn't just to build some cool new tech, it was about solving a real-world problem. They wanted to use machine learning to close that huge security gap for small businesses by making these critical risk assessments available to everybody.
Now, if you want to teach an AI how to be a security auditor, you've got to give it a really good textbook, right? Well, for this project, that textbook was something called the KGIMI Index. It's a framework that's based on this global gold standard for information security, ISO 27001. So the AI had a really solid, proven foundation to learn from.
So this KAMI index, it covers 5 main areas of security. The AI was trained to look at everything, from the big picture governance, like rules and policies, all the way down to the nitty-gritty of the specific security technology a company is using. Basically, it learned to see the entire picture, just like a human expert would. Now, these researchers didn't just build one AI and call it a day. Nope. They wanted to find the absolute best tool for the job. So they actually trained 3 different types of machine learning models and basically had them compete against each other, head to head.
So, here are the contenders. First up is random forest, which is kind of like getting an opinion from a whole committee of experts. Then you've got gradient boosting, which is more like a chain of experts, where each one learns from the mistakes of the one before it. And finally, the support vector machine, or SVM. This one is a master at finding the clearest possible line between what's secure and what's risky.
And the results of this showdown, well, they were pretty decisive. I mean, all 3 models did really well, all over 90% accuracy. But one of them clearly pulled ahead of the pack. The support vector machine was just flat out better at correctly identifying a company's security status.
Yeah, just look at that number. 94.3% accuracy. That is an incredibly high score, and it just goes to show how well this SVM model learned its job. I mean, that level of accuracy is a total game changer. It's a reliable foundation you can actually build on.
But accuracy isn't everything. There's another really important thing called precision, and the SVM model was fantastic here too. Precision basically means that when the AI flags a risk, it's very, very likely to be a real risk. This is so important for small businesses because it stops them from wasting their precious time and money chasing down false alarms.
Okay, so an AI model won a contest. That's cool for the researchers, but what does this actually mean for, the owner of a local coffee shop or a small-town mechanic? What does it mean for Main Street?
Well, the advantages here are huge. Instead of waiting weeks for some report, you get a fast assessment. Instead of paying a fortune for consultants, it becomes super cost-effective. You get accurate insights that are based on data, not just someone's guesswork. But the biggest thing? It makes top-tier security tools accessible to everyone, not just the giant corporations.
At the end of the day, this is really all about empowerment. This research gives us a real, practical way to level the cybersecurity playing field. It gives small businesses a fighting chance to protect their data, their customers, and their future. It really could be the thing that finally protects Main Street.
And that brings us to one last big thought. We've just seen an AI master a really complex task, something that used to require years of human expertise. It really makes you wonder, what's next? What other human jobs is AI on the verge of learning? The possibilities are, well, they're pretty mind-blowing.